Welcome to What's Your Sign? I'm Julia Loken.
I'm Stevie Goldstein.
And I'm the little waterfall of this podcast.
Swoosh,
Ooh,
splish, splash.
I can hear it. The
Makes me
water
want
is
to pee.
so soothing.
Comforting. I know. Well, now even out I just went on a hike. I'm finally back after all this rain, and there's like trickles everywhere, and it's so spring done sprung. Life is back. McRib is back. I don't know if it's actually back, but things feel back in the groove.
The Shamrock Shake is probably back.
I was just going to say
back.
the Shamrock Shake is back. I did pop into a McDonald's in the Bay and saw it, and I wanted to get a Shamrock McFlurry.
Oh,
Mint
I don't think I've
Oreo
ever
mint.
had
I
one.
don't like it that much. I do love mint and mint chocolate chip, but I don't know why the McDonald's one. I mean, I know why. What am I talking about? It's good, but it's not like, going in
Yes.
31 flavors, Baskin family.
I feel you. I like
Ooh.
the Oreo specific with the mint. I mean, I like a mint chocolate chip too, but I feel like there's something about the Oreo filling in there too that
Special, yeah. Feels
I just
good.
want that now.
Still half a day left, Julia.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, I've been going. I don't really like hiking. It's this whole thing. It's a contentious point in my relationship, and my husband really loves it, and I kind of always like. He's very kind of go with the flow, and he has a lot of Libra and a lot of Pisces in his chart, and I tend to like force him to come swim with me or do stuff or like that I like to do. And so on our honeymoon, it was one of the things that we talked about. And I was like, I'm going to try to like hike more with you because I know you really enjoy it. So I figured out that I love waterfalls, and that's the way you can get me to like go on a hike is by like telling me that there's this thing you're going to see and it's going to be cool and it's going to refresh you. And like sometimes you can get a little spritz off the old waterfall, a little scent of forest. But so I've been trying to set up these hikes, and a few times he's had to cancel on me, and so I've gone by myself on a couple. One of the ones I realized one of the things I really don't like is animals, like when they're moving through the bushes, but you can't see what it is. I just start freaking out, and I'm like, "There's a bear." It's like it's definitely not a bear. It's like a squirrel, but I'm just there, like. Anyways, that's why I'm a waterfall today.
Your imagination goes wild when the
Yeah.
bushes start shaking.
Well,
That's
also one of the ones I went on, it's pretty remote, and there was literally zero other hikers. Like the All Trails thing said, like, oh, it's very popular. Like you'll see other people. I'm like, oh, this is great. And then I didn't see anyone, not a single human being, until I
Whoa.
was 15 minutes from my car on the way out. And so
Mhm.
it was like, it was really nice because I was like, I got this beautiful, like, natural area all to myself. But I was also like, there's no GPS, there's no service over here. Like, if something were to happen, oopsie,
She's getting eaten.
Yeah.
She's bear food, baby. Cocaine bear is coming for your ass.
What a way to
wish.
go.
Dude, from a cocaine bear?
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would probably be horrible, but like they would be saying so many nice things at the end of my life.
I mean, it would be
zooted up
like,
death.
Wow. Everyone would be talking about it. That's for sure. It would be newsworthy. I also think that a cocaine bear is going to be like working faster, harder than your regular, like a regular bear sounds like devastatingly could be very slow and like drawn out, whereas like cocaine bear I feel like you're getting like run through, and it's like also I mean it's like just your glasses are left, so it's like, well, that's how we know. Like,
dude, we need Smokey the Bear on that cocoa so he can really get the word out about preventing forest fire.
Cokie the bear.
Cokie the Bear. Whoa, it is Cokie the Bear.
If that's in Cocaine Bear,
there.
don't tell me. If that's in Cocaine Bear already, do not tell me.
We
are the leading experts on
group.
Cocaine Bear, but we have not seen it yet. We need that's our next rite of passage as a trio is Cocaine Bear, getting ascended at the Cocaine Bear. No, last time I went out to nature, I was also fearful that a bear was out there because they could be. Where we live, it's actually an option. Julia, your sister-in-law showed that bear footage in her backyard, and I was like, okay, got it. We're cohabitating.
A neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just like that has the sidewalks and shit. Like, like they're in, which I guess we're in theirs. To come back to it.
I always jingle my keys and like I bring my hydro flask and I like hit my ring against it and try to make noise. I don't, like that helps. They're like, oh, the human's over here. I'm gonna go eat it.
Well, it does, because I do feel like people you don't think about it this way, but really all of these things are like communication issues essentially, because you can't tell a bear that you're like, hey man,
I'm on a hike.
Just let me go.
I'm on my way.
I have so much knowledge about, ocean and all that kind of stuff where I'm like, they say like the reason surfers sometimes have interactions with sharks is because on a surfboard with just your feet hanging off, you look like a seal. So they're like not actually like looking to kill humans or maim them or do anything to them, but they think you're food. And so to me, I always go like, what's the most human noise I can make? Or what's the most like human? So it's like turning on your phone ringer or something. It's like jingling keys. It's like mechanical and like
you start podcasting on the scene. Live. Welcome to Fresh Air.
We good, bear?
I don't mean to brag. I'm in 2 hiking clubs right now. So I'm pulling fucking double duties on the hikes.
I have not been able to. I feel very bad because I've tried to join several clubs, hiking club, a tennis thing or whatever, where I'm like, I want to go like do a thing. And then I just do that thing where it just truly has not worked out any of the dates. And then I'm like, I know that this makes it seem like I don't really want to be in this club, but I really just.
No, keep the invites coming. I will make it when I make it, especially if it's something that's like once a month. If you miss it, then you're not going to be there for 2 more months or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think this Saturn Pisces time to come back to what this episode's about. I would love ritual, take a shot Pisces, but like Tuesday spaghetti dinner, we do this, or like I like a tent pole, like this is where you can find me, because this feels very Pisces. Like I know you can't catch me all the time, but like for me, like there's this dance night. Maybe I won't reveal it. I'll reveal it on Patreon because I don't trust y'all out here on the main feed. So like there's a specific dance night that's once a month, and I'm like, okay, I just want to be like, I will always be here. If you can come, but I'm like, I will be at this thing, come on out. Or the same with like hiking clubs or like a dinner party thing. Like I like big tentpole ritual, because then it's like more space in between to also be yourself and do your own life things. But knowing that you'll have the catch up and the clubs and the time to see who you want to see and around the things that you like.
I love that, and had not thought about this as being a Saturn in Pisces kind of thing, but thinking about what that made me think of is, on the one hand, you, the ritual goer, get to decide what it is that you're just building your ritual routine around or whatever. You're going like, okay, this is a thing that I'm committing to being at consistently, so that it becomes a thing kind of about me. But also thinking about like the dance night example, saying you're going to have to say, I do this every month a bunch of times, to the point where you might feel like defensive, or you know when you do something consistently and someone consistently asks you like, are you going to do this, or what time, or whatever, and it's like, they don't mean something by it, but it's still, we get ego defensive or whatever, because it goes like, how do you not know this about me by now? But that also being a Saturn in Pisces, kind of like needing to constantly communicate the boundary, even though people want it to be something like inconsistent, but making it something consistent that could easily be moved. I don't know if that makes sense, but that thing of going like, committing to yourself to not go like, oh, well, I guess I'm not a person that does this or whatever, like deciding that this is a thing about you, and feeling free to continue, knowing that it's something that people might keep asking you about, and that part of making it a ritual is like consistently saying like, no, I go all of the time because you go all of the time, and knowing that you're still going to have to, I don't know, talk about it.
Mm-hmm. It's like great time to plug our Patreon. We are going to consistently remind you that if you're enjoying this podcast, then why aren't you over on our Patreon? We have bonus episodes. You like what you're hearing? Why don't you support us? Like, it's like, oh, Patreon's like, yes, it's because we get too much information at any given time and people forget. The amount of time people are like, oh, what's your astrology thing? It's like, oh my, it's like, this says, just listen, or like, just show up, or like, yep, I'm here every Monday. Like this, you know where to find me. I go to the stance, you know where to find me. And yeah, I guess like not taking it personally, which is like classic water sign behavior, is like, you don't care then, or you don't notice me. It's like, no, people are just like tired and don't have attention spans, and you need to tell. And it might not be the right time for that person to go out dancing. It might not be that right time to join a Patreon, but maybe now is the time.
No, I was just going to say there is that like hang time between both of those things too, that trusting that like you are going to keep doing the thing. And so you can keep reminding people, and also trusting that someone does want that. They mean what they say when they say, please keep giving me the invite. I'm not trying to like dodge this, whatever. I don't know. Just thinking of this trust and space, and both like action and inaction as very Pisces Saturn, of kind of having to do, not it being the boundary itself as movable, but you having to kind of defend on both sides of the boundary, if that makes sense. Like it's not a goal where there's one entry. It can be either side. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about, and maybe this is more of like, for me, I have a lot of 12th house energy, but I do feel like Pisces being that last sign of the zodiac, there is an energy about following up and completing things and tying bows.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's not really what we associate with Pisces, because it's a lot of like, unknown and these bigger themes,
letting it loose.
Yeah. And I think for sure that is the case, but it's also the end of the wheel. So it is, figuring out how to like wrap that thing. And it's also mutable. So it's also about moving forward. And I think, it's kind of the a graduation of Saturn in some sense, because it has traveled through all 12 signs of the zodiac and will be returning into Aries. And that'll be, the first sign again. We're all familiar. But so I do think there is a big a shift, and especially talking about Saturn. I think we've talked about in previous episodes, Saturn moving through its rulership for the last two signs, or at least signs that has been associated with in ancient and modern astrology, moving into one where it isn't so comfortable, and it's that senior year energy, and I think it's that, yes, we have like senior prank, and there are all these very like fun, wild, unruly Pisces things that happen during senior year, but it's also graduation, and it's also applying for your next job or school, or, if you're going to like the Peace Corps or whatever, like figuring out your next move. And it does feel like a lot of things all at once. And with Saturn being lessons, I mean, that's a lot of lessons. I think kind of to what you were saying, Julia, about like these clubs and stuff, like you're in a 12th house perfection year. Like it's going to be hard to balance all of those things, to decide I'm finished with this thing and I really want to start moving towards this. And how do I free up my schedule? Because I want to be a part of this group or this club or whatever. When, the last perfection year that you went through, the 11th house, is about those things, about building, having your dreams and your friends and your groups and where you belong, and then moving into this like, okay, like we're wrapping up things, and so it's coming. You got your whole.
Oh yeah,
it's so weird you say that, because I was just thinking, stoned of course, about this the other day, like with perfection years, or even with like Saturn moving through like those big transits or those big houses that are really getting their light shine on it. Just a reminder too, when we talk about the houses, that's basically like the part of your chart that's getting lit up by whatever's transiting. And it's like, oh, like for me, I've had Saturn in my 8th house these last couple of years. It's now moving into my 9th. And I feel like, and then before that was the 7th, you get it. It keeps moving. But with perfection years too, each year of life representing a different house that might be highlighted, yada, yada. But like when you're in it, and then it's done, then I'm like, wait, now I'm ready to do like 8th house stuff. Like I was just in it at the time. Like I couldn't see all the 8th housiness that I was doing. And
You
now I like,
accomplished some of it. So you feel
yeah,
comfortable like continuing to do
I'm,
that.
yeah, like I moved through it and now I'm kind of ready to return and reflect back at it or do those things. Or even I'm about to go into 11th house year and I was in this 10th house year. So I was supposed to be in this time of, visibility and career. And it's like, oh, I had to be like uncomfortable at points being seen and then get, practice doing that. Now I feel like I want to do more 10th house stuff now moving into my 11th because like I kind of got all like the creaky, like greasy, like I need to dust this offness of it.
That's great. That's how it. I think that's how it's supposed to work. And I think a lot of the time, I mean, I'm coming to the end of my 11th house year. And so one of the things that I have done at work is start a group. And it's been throughout the year, it's been a growing pain. There have been things, ups and downs. And I feel like, and now we're having our first thing. And so it's like literally the end of my 11th house year. And so it's like, but the beautiful part about that and what you're saying is like, that is what it's supposed to do. You're supposed to have that 10th house stuff to build on for the 11th house and have that 11th house stuff to build on for the 12th and have that 12th house stuff to build on.
Doesn't mean you're done.
Yeah. It's all like, so you have those things that you want to do. So keep doing them, keep them in rotation and move them towards those 11th house things. How can we as women as a group, how can we as astrologers feel comfortable in performance, in work, in all of these other more seen areas of life? How can we as people, how can I make changes for the greater good? How can I accomplish my dreams because of these things? Those are all like 11th house spaces.
I think it's also like learning you have to take a class for a semester at school, but you don't like lose that knowledge, but you're getting tested on these things and you're having to focus. Like this is the book that you're reading, but then you go after you finish that class, you go like, oh, I'm so interested in whatever I learned in this class. And you take that with you instead of it being like, oh, now it's not the same way that when we talk about people having like empty houses and things like that, just because it's a focus doesn't mean now that's you don't have an 8th house in your chart. Now you're like, oh, now that I know this is here, I can like use this room.
Yeah.
Totally. I also, looked up a few things of past Saturn and Pisces. One of them being the Vietnam War happened largely during, or I guess like they say escalated mostly during this transition from Aquarius to Pisces. And one thing that I think is really interesting about that is that there was so much protesting and anti-war activism. And I think we really associate a lot of like activism stuff with Aquarius, but I think Pisces really are like a activism sign. And I also think that the draft is a very interesting like Saturn Pisces. I'm not like saying that we're doing that again by any means.
Imagine the draft comes back. It would be the TikTokers are going to go do this. Yeah, right. They're going to go to Ukraine and do dances.
But like the burning of draft cards and things like that, that was very popular during that time. And I feel like the draft is something that it kind of speaks to that, like, we are all one nature of Pisces, where it's like, oh, well, we're just picking, we're all one, so like your number's up in a negative way. And so I think there is this interesting, like, I don't know, this like activism versus choice and all of this. I mean, we're talking about, abortion stuff now during this cycle, and I don't know, I find it very interesting, the idea of choice and I don't know, absence of choice, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ain't that true though? That's very pressing topic of late, of what's regulated, what's not. It's all bullshit.
The Saturn Pisces to me is also this idea of it being like what you believe, not necessarily what is, or like the way that you can, through the lens of belief, change what is quote unquote objective fact or whatever. Things aren't just what they are. There are multiple things, and the same thing can be like inspiring or devastating depending on which way you're kind of looking at it. And I think that that's that very like Pisces.
Yeah, not to be like a Facebook mom, but like this Jon Stewart clip was going around with some like Jamoke, like politician from Oklahoma, about, of course, about guns and, gun regulation. And the Oklahoma guy was like, or Jon Stewart was like, do you know the leading cause of youth death? And the guy's like, I'm guessing you're going to say guns. And he's like, you can't say, I'm guessing you're going to say like it's my opinion that this is the leading cause of death. But yeah, it is. And because that is the fact. So like, check your emotional tone at me, bro. Cause like, I'm not like picking this out of my like, ooh, this satisfies my wish of making you be proven wrong or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I think too, maybe that is part of, the watery emotional side of Pisces with Saturn there, that is about facts, time, reality. Like what is your reality? What is fantasy? I think too, because the last time this was here, what was 93 to 96 roughly. Mm-hmm. I think I saw this on Channy's blog about Saturn and Pisces of, the heroin chic time, and also like very grunge and this fantasy and like, like these things that are kind of depicted as like unhealthy, air quotes, right, of body image or style, or like, abusing like substances, or like really like rearing yourself down to the bone, quite literally. And I think it's a good reminder of, this is just, that's not going to be your reality either. Like some of these are these unobtainable beauty things, which we already are. It's a very heavy topic, and has been very prevalent. But I think now we're seeing that pendulum move back to the heroin chic or whatever it is. And of like, that's not like, these are models. like that's not you. Like, that is not you. Like, that's not going to be for everybody either. So I think too of like image and how we're being seen, because Pisces is very aesthetically based as well, and very about looks and things like that being naturally okay in the Venus sector.
One of the things I wrote down, a phrase was like compassionate discipline. And I think that is like the opposite of heroin chic, where it's like, to me, Saturn and Pisces, there is one to go like, look how far I'm willing to sacrifice myself. When in fact, it's like, I'm sorry, you should not be willing to go to those. If that's the length you need to go to, that's like a unsustainable length. And we're not going to be proud of you for disciplining yourself so uncompassionetely as to be grinding that hard. Like that's not worth celebrating. That's troubling. Like we need some compassion.
Yeah, like, are you okay?
Yeah.
A couple of the movies that I think came out during the 90s one, I just kind of went from memory, so correct me if I'm wrong, but Toy Story, Lion King, this is like what happens when you're not looking or whatever. It's this idea of these kind of the animation of inanimate, or not, animals are animate, but they don't speak, and so anthropomorphizing those things. I also find, The Lion King, to me, I guess I better look up the date, because I find it very, the 12th house is all about large animals, right? Or not all about, but that's in there, right? So I do feel like Lion King.
Well, I don't want 94.
Yeah, okay. So it was right around them. It's in there. And then Toy Story 2. I feel like Toy Story is this kind of behind the curtain. Yeah, 95. So kind of behind the curtain and what happens to these things. And it's very imagination based, right? So it's like all this, I don't know. It felt very very Piscean to me for those like Disney big hits.
And it totally reboosted Disney as a company, like of let's get back to what the people want here too, like just total fantasy and imagination. And I can't remember the CEO who came in at that time too, but God, I'm gonna get canceled for my Disney.
Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Yeah, so like the whole there was just a whole like style change as well, and like embracing, what you could even do with the kind of technology, like also coming off of Aquarius energy, right? Of like, where can we take this that's more innovative?
I find too a few of the things that I think, for me, the things that I think will be in focus a little bit during this time. I think commercial fishing is going to be something that we look more closely at. I know there was that documentary on Netflix that everybody kind of watched and forgot about. cleaning up the Pacific garbage patch in an environmentalistic standpoint, the oceans. I mean, obviously sea levels are rising and things. We've just had king tides here in California, which is often how marine biologists measure how much the polar ice caps have melted, because the king tides are going to be the highest that the tides will go. So you can like look literally at a rock and be like, oh, it's lit. When it comes out, you can see like, oh, it's eroding higher than it ever has on this rock or whatever. So some of that kind of stuff. I think space and science too are Piscean things that might come into focus during this time period. Whether that's more SpaceX stuff, or if we're actually, I mean, we're getting those beautiful pictures from space. I don't know, this seems like they drop into my inbox somehow every once in a while. So if we're getting better photographs, better telescopes, technology moving in that direction, expansion in that way. I think pharmaceuticals is another like area that we will be looking at. The development of new pharmaceuticals, the hopefully regulation of things like insulin company. I know California is like attempting to start its own company to make insulin more affordable. So things like that, where it's like, oh, we're gonna like subvert the system in order to like make this happen for our community. And then I think Jesus. We saw this big Jesus Super Bowl.
He's coming back.
The final return. No, but I do think there is. He's often represented with a Pisces symbolism, the fish, washing of feet, all of that, those kind of things, footprints, all of those kind of things are definitely associated with Christ in the Christian tradition and not necessarily in astrology. But I do think that seeing that big Super Bowl ad and the way that, Christians are updating, or, I don't know exactly the right way to say this, but like, spending money to like get more visibility, to get, Jesus to the forefront again. That might be something we see a lot more of. It doesn't mean that we're all believing in it more or anything like that. It just might be something we see.
Damn, Jesus is rebranding. Fuck. He's already like the leading man.
And then I also
Christian world.
I
think that could be a cult leader who says they're the second coming of Jesus.
Oh,
too. It could totally.
100.
Could be.
Yeah. Let's see it. Or it might be. Maybe we'll just. That's actually a great angle for us, I think, for the future of the pod. Okay. We're actually all Jesus. So come on down. JesusDoesAstrology.com.
Oh my God.
I also think music will come back into the forefront, whether it's in rights scenario, whether it's in an AI starts, I mean, we're already having this conversation about AI using artists' art and those things. What happens when AI can make those little TikTok sounds, and the music that they're using to learn is not getting compensated. So things like that. Ooh. Or, compensation laws with, I'm not going to name, any names here because they do distribute our podcast, but, big music streaming services.
Getting paid for those things.
That also made me just think though of music coming back in a way where either streaming is limited or whatever, like having to have the time and space to like listen to music. That feels like a Saturn in Pisces kind of like, I don't know, patience sort of discipline, in the sense of like actually sitting and listening to what you're listening to, or going to see something live, or something around that, where we're having to stretch time.
Well, I always think of, especially when it's like, I've said it, I think in Mercury retrogrades and Pisces and stuff, but like, I always think of like, it's other people's music. Like when you go into a public space and you're listening to like, other people's music, and I think a lot of the regulations around, like Instagram business accounts and using a Rihanna song or a Beyonce song. I mean, you're not allowed to do that. But if the song is playing in the business, say I'm at Walgreens and a Beyonce song is playing while I'm shooting a video, that's legal somehow. You know what I mean? Where it's like there are all of these, and Netflix is saying like one password per household. Meanwhile, like Spotify songs are playing in a dance club for thousands of people. Like, how do we rectify the two and all of those kind of things? Questions. I don't have answers to these things,
Well,
but questions.
the other thing too is streamers to different form of media with movies and television are taking off, collections of movies or TV because they want to save, who knows, whatever bullshit reason is, like saving on storage space. I'm simplifying the terms that they use. But now physical media, like maybe we shouldn't have got rid of all our CDs and DVDs because now you can't just stream whatever you want. You then have to pay per episode, or that it doesn't even exist. It's been wiped completely from the web. I remember, I famously bought a DVD of Drop Dead Gorgeous for $17 before it was on any streaming site because it just didn't exist. It was like a ghost movie that you couldn't find anywhere. So I think people are feeling that like, fuck, am I just going to pay $5 every time I want to watch one episode of RuPaul's Drag Race? Like, this is not sustainable, especially since we're used to everything being free or cheap.
And when do those things become about, like, I think going back to kind of a civil rights conversation and stuff, where it's like, when do those things become about erasing gay culture or erasing Black history in ways by removing media from, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying like that they're actively doing that, but like what is the line? What do we preserve as far as like historical culture, women's issues? Like those things are represented in film and television art in a lot of ways. So erasing some of those things, like it can erase progress and history, and maybe it comes down to like, maybe we need to be taking down the statues, the things that are harmful, the things that are, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's like the answer or whatever.
Did you hear about, my stepdad just told me about how and I just looked this up to be confirmed that this is true, but in Roald Dahl books, they're removing the words fat from all the books and replacing it with enormous, which is also like, I'm friends with fat people. Fat people claim fat. Like, it's kind of just like a weird choice, bro. Also, they're removing the word ugly, and I don't know what they're replacing it with, but it's like weird. Like, this is the weird, like taking down statues of slave owners. I can get behind, like replacing, I don't know, it gets back to like banning books or like banning things that have existed. It's like, this is to learn from. Also, it was a different time. I don't know.
That's I say I'm fat all the time, and I don't know if that's a problematic thing or not. But I do feel like
it's not.
Like I know other fat people too. They don't want it removed from books or whatever. But I do think
it's a strange one.
It's an enormous of history. Yeah, I mean, like that helps. Yeah, like, and it's like, just it's an alteration, changing something, going back and changing something, and how come it's okay in that regard, but we can't like make further amendments to the Constitution or whatever? You know what I mean? Yeah, where it's like you can't have it both ways.
You'll switch every word every time Roald Dahl says fat, but you won't pay reparations. Like, so, like, what, like, where? Okay, that's so. I guess I think that just feels so. Take a shot, drink with Pisces. Like, feels just so tired. It's like, who is that servicing besides yourselves? Who is that making feel better? Like, do something that actually lends to society, or pays retribution to those who have been wronged before.
What illusion are we like holding up instead? And I think that changing the words is like the illusion that we care about people, that we care about how people feel and how people see themselves, when we aren't willing to do that in an actual way, where it's like actually creating, like, instead of that, why don't we actually look at how we are creating like second class citizens, third class citizens, whatever, in our actual structures, not in this way that's like, oh, your feelings about a thing, because that makes it seem like all of this stuff is made up, when there are actually very real like borders put
harmful,
up to certain people. Yeah, there are. Like, yes, there is. There are ways that we've put up real structures around these things, not like airy fairy. Oh, you hurt my feelings. Like, no, there's like actual discrimination and actual oppression. And this is something that I'm thinking of Saturn in Pisces, is how we deal with older people, age. Whoa. And all of this kind of stuff. And I think that there is a lot of emphasis put on like making sure we're teaching kids at the right thing instead of doing reparative, like retroactive stuff where it's
media
like,
literacy.
Yes, it's about admitting that you're wrong, admitting that these things did shape you. And so you might have some holes in your worldview on something that I've been thinking about a lot for myself, which I feel like is in this thing of kind of like revising your own, noticing where you, even if you weren't consciously affected by a thing, it doesn't mean that you weren't still having the messages that clearly are embedded in society embedded in you because you are just living life or whatever. I've been thinking a lot about like religious stuff like that too, where it's like I didn't necessarily, I would never been like, oh, religion shaped me in this way, but also like you live in America. There, of course, it's shaped. It's shaped.
Jesus is on the Super Bowl.
Yes, exactly. It's shaped everything that you've ever like known or oriented yourself towards. So to say that this doesn't have, you don't have blind spots or whatever, whether intentional or not, it's that. And I think we're very excited to try to like get people when they're fresh and try and have them make no mistakes instead of going like, whoops, we made a mistake there and we need to update. So it's going to take our structure is going to be a little uneven because there was a huge hole in this side of the building that we need to repair. So like bear with us while the breeze blows through, but that doesn't mean that we still just leave this building fucking ripped open. Like, why are we being like, I'd rather have this thing and call this breeze fucking, this is just the skylight that's letting us onto this next thing next time, or like,
well, I think that's a conversation too, is with like baby boomers and like, color me grateful that it seems like life expectancy is getting longer and longer, like, and then people are living longer.
Just ticked down. Well, it did tick down a year.
Well, I think COVID probably had something to do with that, but I think generally people are working longer, and so we've had a lot of conversations about, when will baby boomers leave the workforce, and having these methods of extending life, which are great, don't get me wrong. What does that mean about how we treat people in organizations and how we facilitate people moving towards different positions or moving up or creating more space? I know millennials have this, like, for all of our adult life has been like waiting for boomers to, move on so we can move up in a position or get a position. I think it was a conversation with the Robert De Niro, they like used AI to make him younger in a movie or something, and then
the
Irishman.
Will like millennials ever get to work? Because he literally took over for Brando, right? Like that was one of his early roles, I think. Was
he did play younger Brando in The Godfather.
Yeah. So exactly. So it's like, oh, what, you had to play younger you and all of that kind of thing. So I do think that will be a conversation. I don't think it's to be fair. Yeah. Boomers irreplaceable, Well, of course they are. I mean, I think of my mom, and I'm not trying to say in any way to like move on and all of that, but it is.
Well, they can't retire.
I know.
That's the other part.
That's the
no one can.
No one can graduate. We're all in the Saturn Pisces.
Well, and I was thinking too. I was like watching House Hunters renovation. I was complaining how I'm like, I can't believe they cut the budget on the voiceover. Like, I miss her. My mom was like, she died of cancer, and I was like, oh, I didn't. Okay, I'm like, I'm glad it was. I was like, I'm glad it wasn't a budget cut, because I'm like, why, we love Suzanne Wang, like, why do we let her go? But I was like, can't they just? They have enough of her voice. Can't they just like AI her? And,
like they did it.
My brain went evil. I went so evil. I was like, actually, no. What? Like, but that might be. I could see
that
it.
Also is the kind of thing. I feel like this is like the, as much as I love. That is the lengths that you have to go to perpetuate something staying the same for that long. And I think that is another kind of Pisces and Saturn lesson, is that it's like, things have to change. High school is the same, like, grades, but the people in that class are different every year. And yet like school goes on and people go through whatever. And like that, I don't know, the things that stay the same and the things that have to change. And of course it would be great if they stayed the same, but also it's not, then it kind of becomes creepy and whatever. Like we got to let it. Yeah.
I mean, I just got my 20-year 8th grade reunion invitation. Like, who does it? Like, who?
Whoa.
Who
That's
does that?
wild.
Catholic school people.
I don't know.
That
I do
too.
like this kind of mix up of the traditional ones where it's like, I don't know. That does sound intriguing more than high school.
Yeah, it's like, hey, the last time I saw you, you were growing boobs. What you doing now? See, they came in. That's cool.
I also think maybe this is just something I wrote down that I found relevant from because when this comes out, we'll be having a new moon tomorrow on the day that Saturn also goes into Pisces. I'm sorry, a full moon.
Yeah.
And full moons are about releasing. And so one thing in my yoga class, I don't know if this is true science, because I just heard it in a yoga class, so please don't, come for me. But my yoga teacher was saying, when we inhale, that the air actually is pushed from the atmosphere into your body. Like it takes less, it's like more automatic. Like it's just going to happen because the atmosphere is pushing air. That's what atmospheric pressure does, according to this teacher. So the exhale is what's
sounds
really,
right.
really something you can really, really control and get the deep breathing going, starting with the exhale. And that, to me, that was just interesting. I think of, I don't know if you've ever squeezed water using your squeeze bottle to get water into your soap to make more soap. Make more soap. But
I've been broke. Yeah.
But that kind of thing where it's like the water squeeze, it's the pressure when you release it is when the water comes into the bottle, right? It's not when you squeeze it. And so I think that's an interesting thinking about this kind of release that's happening tomorrow and with Saturn and Pisces.
Yes, let's get
speaking of
tomorrow, I was like, we'll tell you when that is.
Yes.
Saturn in Pisces, when does this begin? Who? Saturn moves into Pisces on March 7th of this year, 2023, where it will remain. It is not even going to retrograde out. It's going to stop at 0 degrees, I think we said, right?
Yeah.
Exactly at 0. I mean,
we are done with Aquarius.
Nah, babe. Yeah, nah, babe. We ain't going back.
Edges.
Until it will be in Pisces until May 24th of 2025. At which point it will move into Aries for a brief moment before it retrogrades back into Pisces August 31st, 2025 through February 13th of 2026. So ostensibly, we are in Saturn in Pisces until February of 2026. So we're in, Saturn takes about 3 years to move through each sign, again, depending on the retrograde and depending on all things considered. So we've got some time with this Pisces, and this is a shift we've talked about. We're also getting, Pluto moving to Aquarius. Not fast. The other thing we're starting to is this Saturn Neptune conjunction on the horizon too, which will be,
I was going to say, widely Neptune changing signs.
Yeah, while Neptune remains in Pisces for a bit longer, we're going to have a Saturn Neptune conjunction May to June of 2025, as well as July and August of 2025, and then we'll have in Aries, Pisces and Aries, February, March 2026.
Some relief from Uranus too. We've had Saturn Aquarius squaring off with Uranus for these last few years. We're now going to, of course, by sign, we'll know when the dates come with more by degree, a sextile to Uranus. Okay. What IDK, that's a little more open, I guess, in terms of those changes or adaptations or those things that are a little more in flux. And yeah, I mean, the end of Neptune Pisces eras, it's wild to think about because it's just been there so long and it's sinking. It feels like Neptune leaving Pisces, the sign, in a more modern sense that it rules, traditionally Jupiter, modernly Neptune, it ending with hand in hand with Saturn feels like, yeah, you're done. Thank you for your service. The fantasy, the delusion, willful delusion is not really going to fly as much when we move into more Aries energy. Again, this is still not for a while. We're looking ahead here, and this is a longer transit, but I don't know. It feels like, if not scary, because no one should, don't fear whatever. Life's scary, but it does feel like you're a grown up now. You're okay. That those things that used to work for you might not anymore. Those things that were God, even just thinking of like the pivot to video or whatever, the things that worked before might not work now. And I think I've been saying, screaming my head off about, I think Saturn being about structure, the bones, about, structural integrity, being in Pisces is about defending yourself as well and growing a spine. I keep saying it over and over. It's like cowards not welcome. Pisces might want to run away and like shy from, conflict. It's not known for conflict. And it doesn't mean you have to then pop off and become a huge bitch now. But I think it feels very, to quote a meme, like Dakota Johnson, like, no, that's not true, Ellen. Like, I think just coming back to what is truth, what works for you, and also how you feel about the matter is, yeah, like maybe this job pays and does this, but does it allow you that free time, or does it allow you to feel like yourself? I think that that's going to all be really valuable information during this transit.
I think it's also a reminder just of like consequences of your choices. They can always kind of be changed, but if the choices that we make most consistently, whether we want them to or not, do tend to like accumulate, and they have consequences, and that leads to things, going like whatever decisions that we're making. And I think that this Pisces is like, there's always a choice, and you get to decide which choice you're making, but you don't get to go, oh, I didn't know that this was going to happen, or whatever. Or like sometimes you have no choice, or sometimes sometimes it's the, lesser of two evils or whatever. Like sometimes you're left with a terrible options, but you always do have, the choice.
One of the things that I learned in Hawaii, and tying back to waterfalls, in Hawaiian culture, it is traditional to hula when you see a source of water out of respect. And I find that a really interesting tradition, talking about Saturn and Pisces, because, in modern day, like we have sinks and we have, the way you run into water is completely differently, and more readily available. And luckily, and where we are, it's easy to get clean water too. But just the idea that this thing is so big and powerful. Water is definitely something in Hawaii that like spoke to me the most, where I was like, this is where I feel safe and happy. I feel like this is my little Cancer moon, everything, waterfalls and streams and ocean. And, I was in where, what is it called? Where the river meets the ocean. We don't have to think of it, but
brackish water.
No, it's like an estuary.
Estuary. But yeah, I think it is brackish water when you describe the water. But anyway, there's so many different, whatever, Hawaii. But I think the idea of having gratitude or dance or respect or whatever, because we drink it every day, and so it is this idea of something I'm going to take with me going forward, is that if it's a hard day, or if you need that affirmation or the thing or the gratitude, it's like, then do it when you wash your hands, when you wash your face, like so that it becomes a practice, so that like, I'm gonna go take a second, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, I'm gonna calm down, I'm gonna wash my hands, I'm gonna like, think about happy things, or say my thing that I want to embody today. And I think same with dance too. I think dance can be very Piscean. It's fluid, it moves, it's sometimes partnered, and all of those things. And I think for sure dance it off, shake it off, like physically go take 5 and go like literally shake it off of your body. You don't have to make a beautiful dance out of it, but go do it. And I think especially like creativity as a sign of respect to something. I love all of that stuff.
I love it.
Damn, you drink water every day? Jealous.
Try.
Need to remember to do that.
You like follow water is like sign of life, where if there's water, things can live and grow and like flourish there. And thinking of, the seasons, at least here in the Western hemisphere, of thinking of like water being a sign where we're not necessarily seeing the flowers and stuff yet, but it is the sign that spring and life is returning, and thinking about that in terms of it being, making space for emotions, and those also being the, like, I don't know, fluidity and flow and connection and all of that too, I think is, making space in our structure for that. We have to have like I don't know, Saturn and Pisces making me think of like pipes or whatever, but it is like we have to make sure water gets in here too. So making sure that we're all making sure we're getting water in our lives, whether that be literal water or but also creativity and joy and spirituality and that like yeah, all of that stuff of that being something that isn't frivolous at all. It is proof of life and necessary for us to be healthy and thriving. I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about Saturn and Pisces as a, you know, creative person. I don't know why I said it like that.
As a no, you need to do the as a proper creative, noun. As a creative.
As a creative, thinking about Saturn and Pisces as like working with the creativity itself and how it is both like a practice that you need to come to, but also it's kind of own thing that you don't get to control or manipulate in the ways that we always went to, where it's like always there at your disposal, but part of it is coming even when the water isn't flowing necessarily, but making sure that we're keeping the waterways clear and clean and maintained so that when water is coming, we're there to receive it and make the most use of it. Thinking someone else was talking about in California, I think it was when we were in the Bay on that hike, talking about rainwater, things like that too, of these things of like, oh, like, and our collective differences and all of these kinds of things of like just making sure that we know what to do. Like different areas are going to get different levels and all of that, but we should all be mindful and intentional about how we're making sure that like waterways are clean and useful and efficient and whatever. Again, literally, metaphorically, spiritually, whatever that means.
I was hiking this morning and right now we're still in the like snow-capped California mountains time. It's so gorgeous, like simply stunning, epic nature, so small, so humbled. But I was listening to these like horrible women next to me being like, it's really a shame. It's like kind of a nasty day. Like I'm not really getting the best view. And I'm like, this doesn't owe you anything. Like, oh, you're critiquing that. Like you wish it was clearer to see the mountains. I'm sorry. We live there's a valley and a basin here. And yes, sometimes this is my other pet peeve in LA is when people are like, it's so smoggy. I'm like, this is actually like not smog. This is actually not smog. This is marine layer, or this is like, I guess, yeah, sometimes it is smog, but like sometimes it's not. And just hearing people complain about the quality of the nature they were getting, I'm like, yeah, you didn't pick up any of the trash you fucking just saw or walked by, or like, then do something, bitch. Like, again, sorry, Aries moon over here, just like, oh, this isn't good enough. This spectacular once in a lifetime event.
Rain like hike in California.
Blessing,
are you joking?
This blessing you're literally on. Oh, I'm sorry. This stolen land isn't giving you enough.
You can't see our man-made city beautifully enough on this. All this nature's in the way. Like,
yeah, and like again, whatever. Like complain, can complain, but it just I like. How do you sit there and think that's not enough? That's what I was feeling. Just like. I didn't. Yeah, it's not as clear, but I can see it and I can feel it more. Like I can't believe that there's what looks like Switzerland snow-capped mountains suspended in the air in front of me. Like, oh, sorry, it's like a little hazy. Like, well, then call your congressperson and like let's clean it. Like even with the rainwater in California, I mean, we don't use so much of it too. It's like, well, how do we work in these systems? Obviously, the Ohio train derailment.
Yep.
Wouldn't be shocked if we see more things like that because Saturn Pisces does sound like deregulation in a lot of ways.
To me, that Ohio train, and I know we're not in this transit yet. Right. I find it like very Uranus Gemini, that like unexpected, like, I don't know, maybe just a taste of that. Or I guess Pluto Aquarius too. Maybe it's like the air and the, it's in the water. I don't know. I find it so like, I mean, it's horrifying anyway. I listened to the town hall. It was very intense.
Well, did you hear, and I got to watch the movie about how they were filming the movie about the train derailment, White Noise, in that town. So a lot of the families who were extras in the movie about the train disaster poisoning the town,
my God,
were literally now people experiencing what they were just acting in. That's like crazy. In that town.
That's Mars and Gemini. right?
Yeah.
That's like
Oh
the
my
dual
God.
nature of life. Yeah, like so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Mars and Gemini is just, I've been blaming Mars and Gemini that we're still in for all our problems, but
Yeah.
we'll be out of it soon and we'll have more Mars retrogrades to look forward to during this whole time. I mean, yeah, we're going to get, when does Uranus, speaking of Uranus, when does Uranus move into Gemini?
2025.
Oh, so we're going to have so many shifts during this Saturn Pisces. Not as we mentioned, Saturn itself, but then Pluto and Uranus and Neptune. Oh my God.
And
that's
that
everybody.
being
every outer planet, that is.
Well, it's also like, do we find out then 2025 the effects of this Ohio train?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Is that
yeah,
the,
we're
like,
all made
oh,
of poison.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Probably.
All of this. Well, I was reading a piece that Kira, the astrology Taborn, wrote about Saturn
Friend
and
of the
Pisces.
pod.
And yes, I really liked this description that she gave of Saturn and Pisces being like, you know, there are different, specific piece it says the rules of the sea are different than the rules of the land, but there are rules nonetheless. And in order to survive being out at sea, one must abide by the strict set of regulations, and there is daily upkeep to the vessel and the body. But again, these are things you wouldn't even consider being on land. And thinking of that, like, I don't know, there's going to be so many shifts to where it is like what keeps you personally grounded and be feeling connected to all of us, because we're all in this, but we are going to see it from different kind of perspectives. But that doesn't mean that huge seismic shifts aren't happening. And really all we can do is like keep your boat afloat to keep kind of like going through this, so you can both, you know, I don't know, take care of yourself, but also someone else might need to like come in your boat too. I don't know, all of this stuff where it's like we got to be ready to house people in our boat, and but also to be like, okay, well, we can't, if we don't get there, there's nothing to what's worth fighting for if we don't all get there, if we all fucking sink, if there's holes in all of our boats, then all of this is a moot point. So
sharing resources is an inspiring way to think of on the optimistic side of, you know, I'm out here trying to house apartment swap, like let's defeat Airbnb. I mean, again, unless they want to sponsor the podcast, then we'll sell our souls. But anyways, but like we have enough stuff collectively to sustain. Like there's no real need for that much new, which feels very Pisces, like in terms of like clothing, in terms of housing, like we have it, like it's here. Yeah, even
that to me is like food. taxing billionaires too, you know, like it's that
totally
like,
for stuff they're not using.
Everyone else is taxed. Like I don't know how you're not giving millions or whatever.
Should have took out a PPP loan. I'm so pissed at myself.
Yeah.
We're going that just made me think of like, we're going like, oh, where's all this money? How are we going to pay for all of this?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, where's the money going?
I don't know. So weird.
It's like,
as we know about people sitting
collective
on
time in history.
Literal Scrooge McDuck piles of money going like, how could we possibly? I know it's not on people or whatever, but also
hoarding wealth is a mental problem. Like you have a mental disorder if you're hoarding that much wealth. Spend it. It makes life.
Yes. All of it, where it's like it's doing nothing. It is doing nothing there. Like it could do all of this stuff. We know we might not all agree on what we should do with it or whatever, but it is also like that it's sitting there doing nothing. So
it's sitting there doing nothing. So we're gonna I like Pisces since it does lend into Aries to come, and we're not there yet of what's true. Like what is true for you? What do you see? What makes you feel a certain way? I don't know. Like I feel like that's been the collective shoulder shrug of astrologers. Like Saturn Pisces is gonna be it feels like it will be quite a vibe shift. We're also supported with all these other outer planet vibe shifts. And yeah, I mean, fuck. I don't know. Like, I think that hopefully it calls for peace and healing in a higher Pisces sense, but also we can get really detached and not care. And I think it's so easy for us to doom scroll and feel like nothing can be fixed. And this is just, we're all should just go down with the ship. But I don't know. I keep going back to like the ozone layer is healing. So like it is possible to fix our mistakes and to like what you said, Julie, about like, we don't have to put it on those who are new and fresh to right the wrongs of the elders. Like the elders need to like fucking own up to their shit too and get their hands in the mud and contribute. So yeah, I think like not putting it all on the future folks to come, but checking back in with where we could just be better people.
And even saying like, what did you learn from that? Even that, where it's like, we're not only missing out on the actual things, like we're missing on the wisdom that you've gained from your experiences. I think that's like a Saturn and Pisces to me too, of being like, I don't know. Yeah. If you can be honest about the choices that you had to make and how you made your choices and how you've lived with the consequences of your choices, that's stuff that's transferable. That's stuff that people can learn from and take into consideration when they're making hard choices, because every generation has to do that. Everyone has had to do that at some point, and not telling us how you did it and how you feel about the choices that you made isn't helping people make better choices. Like that's going like, oh, I didn't have anything, whatever. And when it's like, no, we have all of this resources. I'm just going to note that we talked about the Saturn Neptune conjunction that will happen in the Saturn Neptune cycle that we are in now. But the Neptune itself was discovered during a Saturn Neptune conjunction, which I think is interesting in terms of that being like bringing form and like structure to the thing that's like kind of, formless, whatever. But this was also a time when, socialism is booming. Also the California gold rush, the romantic period, and there was also, a bunch of other awful stuff too. But just thinking of, I think a role like Saturn and Pisces thing to me is that it's like, it is kind of up for grabs what else we're building too. So like we'll see, we're going to try stuff out and see what kind of stands the test of time, which also feels like a very Saturnian concept, even in and of itself, is like, something that you put up, even just a little structure or whatever. We might build something, in the sand that doesn't stand the test of the beach or whatever. Like, and then you learn, oh, that's not how we like build a thing, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
I have a prediction. This is my only like hardcore prediction I'll make. I think what's going to come back in style is gatekeeping, and not like in a asshole, like, exclusive way. Just like, not everyone needs to know where the best thing is at. Like, I think people might want to keep more things for themselves or for their group of friends or whatever. I think everything has been geotagged to fucking death. I'm gonna call gatekeeping is coming back.
I'm with you. I'm for it. I also
maybe I'm just making a request that comes back.
Same. As someone who, has sometimes had interactions with wonderful people that listen to this podcast, while I love talking to you guys, it is also a reminder that this is public. And sometimes it makes me afraid that people know where to find me. And it's different, like someone knowing where to find me for this reason. But thinking about the fact that, like, I do kind of say like where I hang out on here and like those kind of things. I've really taken a step back from doing that from the very beginning of this podcast, when it felt like, one would hear it. Now I
stopped. I didn't say what dance I'd be at, with rituals
exactly.
And things. I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna blow up the spot. If you want to invite, get in my circle.
It is one of those things where I'm like, if you really want to connect, like, you can catch me here every Monday, or like, where my show is on Sundays, and you can come say hi in that safe space, space where I feel safe. And so, yeah, I feel that in a safety component in a lot of ways, and not just with the podcast, like on my Instagram and other, and other ways too, where I don't want you to know where I get my sandwiches at every week, because I go there by myself.
Gatekeeping,
Dude,
secrets. Well, and also like having something that you share with just yourself or your partner or a few people. It's or my main thing that I fucking hate is these, sorry to sound like a millennial boomer, but the TikTokers who are like, oh my God, my job's so easy. All I do is send one email a day and I get paid this. And it's like, bro, we've known this whole time. We didn't blow up the spot. You don't blow up the spot.
Yeah.
Stop blowing up the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with like restaurants and stuff too. I mean, did you see the Harry Styles thing? You were the one
Harry
that told me
Styles,
about it, right?
Yeah.
Tales oldest time. Mentions it once in a song. Now the Beechwood Cafe can't.
Yeah, you're the one
the kids
who
are
told me about it.
the kids are taking the aux cord. There was a good LA Times photo article about it too. So yeah, blowing up the spot is kind of, I'd say it's out of style. We're not blowing
Like,
up the spot anymore.
As much as I love like a busy shift, like I would not want to work there. That sounds horrible. People breaking out in song all the time. I'm guaranteeing all good tippers.
No.
Yeah,
absolutely not. I think it
If
now
you're
needs to be if you
listening and
know,
you're
you know.
If you're listening and you have been to the Beechwood Cafe or you're gonna go, tip well.
I
That's
used
all
to
we're
go
saying.
there. That you've ruined it. I mean, I don't know. Still, I don't know.
So if you don't know, Harry wrote about it in a song. Now it's a pilgrimage site for I don't even know what Harry Styles fans are called.
I don't know.
Stylies, hairheads.
Oh wait, no, they're
Harry Style fans. I think
when you
as you know, I only enjoy Harry Styles in his performance in oh my god, why can't I think of it? No, Dunkirk. I never saw maybe Dunkirk, thank you. Yeah, I'm only a Harry Styles fan for his war acting. Thought he was great. But yeah, he blew up the spot. And I think it will fade and everything has its time and whatever. But
no, but
yeah, I don't know. Something special with Pisces.
I think a little mystery also could be just a thing. I mean, it's that where it's like I think maybe it's not so much gatekeeping, although Capricorn moon over here. I'm like, I love a gatekeep.
She's got the keys to the gate. She's
like, call me Mark Maron. Lock the gate. But I do think that kind of like, thinking of mystery, of a little bit of illusion, a little bit of a thing. I think that a lot of what are we doing now that we have all of the information, and what is the value in being able to kind of I don't know, obfuscate the information. That to me also I think of like art and movies and things like that, where it's like this is the art of deception in like a cool way, in a mind expanding way, not in a like we're hiding information, which is also I think could be definitely Piscean and Saturnian, like that. We know that that's happening. But thinking of it being more like, let's keep some mystery or some omission in that thing where it's like, oh, if you recognize the picture in the background, then you know where it is, but I'm not going to tell you where it is. That kind of a little more Taylor Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Pro gatekeep. Of course, like if it's like helping someone in your community get work, you're all smart. Use your best judgment. But in terms of, again, blowing up the spot, when you are and when you aren't. So
and decide for yourself what you think is like a cool cafe to go to. Don't just go to the one that everyone's going to or whatever. Like we're tired of that. Also, I think that like where I'm like, there's not enough. Of course, TikTok has original. To exist. If everybody has to make content every day or whatever, then like, you are like, where else would you think of to go to besides this place that everybody is said to go? Like, I don't know, let's make something up, make your own. I don't know.
Get lost. Ooh, there you go. Get lost a little bit. Like go off of a vibe or maybe where's even in like thinking about like a kind of Virgo flip to the Pisces story. Like where's in your neighborhood or where's something that's like always caught your eye and you've always wanted to go in there or whatever. I don't know. I think it doesn't have to just be where someone told you. Again, like let's not be robots. Is my request for Pisces Saturn season. They're making enough robots to replace us. We don't have to be them. We actually get to be people who are sensual and feeling and emotional and can be wrong. Like we don't have to be perfect. And I think of that release of the Virgo side too as embracing our messiness, but not in that like TikTok, Instagram, like, well, I'm such a goblin. It's like, you don't have to label when you're like a piece of shit either. Like those, trust me, as someone who's been through their Saturn return, their first one, not the second, not that old. Like we're going to have ebbs and flows when we're feeling really spot on and put together and when we're really checked out, but it doesn't need to be like in my goblin era. I don't know. I think the labelization of these kind of just things, I see it on the way out.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Give us what you got.
Well, this is great. We had a request from our patron, Jackie. Shout out to Jackie. friend of the pod, patron. And folks can ask questions before we record episodes. If you're a member of our Patreon, again, that's patreon.com/what's your sign podcast. Link in bio, link in show notes. So we asked folks in our Discord if they had any questions before we recorded our Saturn and Pisces episode. And not so much a question, but a request for any mantras per sign of, what to bring into this Saturn and Pisces time or what to reflect on. So we did that. So we have some mantras for you. Me and Lisa, I think, both concocted some. So I'm interested to see where they overlap. But should we? I'm guessing you did by rising sign one by one.
I just did general ones.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, we'll go in. You go first, and then I'll see what happens.
Cool. Remember I was talking about doing this while washing your hands or brushing your teeth or something when you see water as a reminder, because water is so ever present in our current modern life. So they're short. It's what I'm trying to say. But hopefully they're useful. First one is all together we create. Second one is I go with the flow. I dream as big as I can and then set practical goals.
All right. Oh, okay. So there is some overlap to some of them, which is exciting.
I have a few more.
Okay. Sorry. No, okay. Again, very Pisces. I was like, I thought that was the end. Anyways, keep going.
I am a spiritual being filled with light. Every interaction has meaning. Wealth, happiness, and love flows to me. When life gets tough, I still dance. I'm grateful for my body, my being, and the wonders of nature around me. Last one being, others' rules do not define me. Pick one, take one, use them all if you want to write them down and rotate whatever you think. They're in my phone for me.
I love them all.
Yo.
Cool. I have some I am or I's, not all are I statements. This is for each rising sign. I think it could apply probably to, if you hear like, I really like the Leo rising one, then take it, honey. Because again, this is Saturn Pisces fluid time. But this is relates to where it's transiting for your house. So check your chart. If you're in the Astro Know, you might be like, that makes sense. But here we go. For Aries rising, your statement is, I am listening to the signs of the universe on this journey. My dreams are in reach. And for Taurus rising, I am supported by the people around me, my environment, and those people celebrate my wins. Gemini risings, I am gifted and I am proud. I claim my power and vow to speak the truth for myself and for those who can't represent themselves. Cancer rising, I am living my values and respect the values of others. I believe there's room for all of us. Leo rising, I share the parts of myself no one has seen. I am lovable during all my seasons. Virgo rising, I give full trust to those who earn it. I live and practice reciprocity. Libra risings, I take the time to tend to my needs. I take all the small steps on the way to the big picture. Scorpio rising, I share myself and what makes me feel beautiful. I say yes to love. Sagittarius risings, I stay grounded amongst the chaos. I protect my peace. Capricorn risings, I stand strong in my ideas. My voice is resolute. Aquarius rising, I am my best friend. I'm always there for myself. And Pisces rising, I'm going the right way because it's mine. Do not underestimate me. And those are for your risings.
I love those. They're great.
I love it.
How are you guys feeling for your Saturn transits?
I'm fucked. I'm just kidding. It'll be fine. It's always somewhere. I know for some of you it's gonna transit your sun, or you're having a Saturn return, or you have Happy a lot Saturn of natal return. Placements there. It's happened to, it'll happen again, hopefully in your lifetime. So just enjoy that you get to experience even the worst parts of life.
Mm-hmm. Ready to learn a new dance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Give me that choreo. Yeah. It's a while, we'll be in this shit for some time. And also if you're in your Saturn return Saturn Pisces person, whether it's your first, second, third, fourth. If it's fifth, then you're a vampire. Let us know your secrets.
Talk to me.
Yeah.
Suck me,
bitch.
suck me, baby.
We really got to start marketing to the vampires. I think they really like the
get
pod.
at me. They are taking Buffy the Vampire
Julia.
Slayer off of Hulu.
Julia.
Oh, they are?
Hey, you're inviting right now. You're actively seeking invitation.
Wow.
Be careful.
No, garlic. Bring the garlic to me. I rescind. Consent can be rescinded at any time, and I rescind my invitation.
There she is. Unless you're a hot vampire or no, aging secrets.
Of course,
I'll decide.
In the fun sense, I'm with you, but I also just like protect your energy spiritually.
You're true. You're true. You're right. You're right. I'm flagrant.
But I think it's gonna be for a minute. We'll be learning. We'll be here. We'll be checking in.
That's my Saturn and Pisces lesson. Respecting my energy. I love it. Well, Saturn and Pisces, let's do this. Let's do this thing. I'm feeling very like, all right, I'm ready.
Strapped in.
It's so close where there's no time to change our minds.
I'm signing up for my scuba for Saturn and Pisces.
Yes, that's exciting.
Like there's nothing more Saturn and Pisces for me.
I love it. Well,
upgraded to the final boss level.
Let's do this thing.
I'm with you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys. Happy Saturn Pisces time. Bye.
Bye.